Good afternoon and welcome to our Oak Bend Medical Center Happy Hour podcast. My name is Donna and I am your host. Today I want to welcome Dr. Ladi. Dr. Ladi serves as an emergency medicine physician at Oak Bend Medical Center. Dr. Ladi also specializes in interventional pulmonology and critical care. He's a pulmonologist, sleep medicine specialist, and internal medicine. Welcome, Dr. Ladi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
With all the credentials you have, why emergency medicine?
You know, emergency medicine was actually the first area of practice that I did before I went on and did further training. And it's kind of great because you get to see people and put everything together when you first encounter people. You know, you don't have a lot of information when people come to the emergency room, a lot of background information, and sometimes they can't tell you. So it's great to use that, all the training that I have to kind of pick in my brain and experience and so forth and put everything together and trying to come up with a way to help people.
Awesome. We want to thank you because you are a real asset to Oak Bend Emergency Room, and you and your team did a phenomenal job during COVID. It was just amazing. Today, I kind of want to talk about something that seems to be happening more and more, and it's about supplements in kids and young people. Are supplements sold over the counter safe?
So that's a very good question. Depending on what kind of supplements you talk about, and I think you're alluding to more the pre-workout type of supplements and supplements that people tend to use to work out. And those are the ones that are you have to be very careful with those because they can have products in them that are sometimes psychostimulants or stimulants. They can have adverse effects if not taken appropriately. Supplements like vitamin D, a lot of people need that. Vitamin C, sometimes you don't have enough vitamins in your diet. Those are safe to take, and as well as these pre-workouts, but everything is in moderation. And the key here is following the instructions. Unlike medications, and this is what I want to really make sure that all the listeners know, is that unlike medications, a lot of supplements do not have that vigorous FDA, Food and Drug Administration, oversight. So really, at this point still, the supplements can have a lot of products and don't have the vigorous evaluation from the FDA at all. So with that being said, if you look at some supplements, sometimes they'll tell you they have vitamins and like your vitamin B complexes and so forth. And then they have something called the propriety blend. What does that mean? What's in there? And they might list off some ingredients. Sometimes they don't list anything at all. And a lot of times these ingredients can have higher doses of caffeine or any type of stimulant to give you that boost that some people need before they go work out.
Okay. So there seems to be, I have some granddaughters that play special league softball and that kind of stuff. And, kids in school, it seems like there's a pressure with athletes now, going to the pros or are working on scholarships, those kind of things. And of course you have good buddies or you read things that take supplements when you work out and all that. How would an athlete know they're getting in trouble?
This is very key because a lot of times, especially when you're young, especially you're a young athlete, if you just had a quick sports physical, you didn't have a detailed cardiac workup, a lot of times we don't know. And a lot of times some kids don't even have a workout sports physical at all. And they don't know that they might have some kind of heart problem or anything of that nature. And then they will take the supplements. Their friends will say, hey, this worked really well. Or the common thing that happens is they'll take a pre-workout or something of a supplement and they'll take more of it, And then what happens is when you take more of it, thinking that more is better, well, more is not always better, and it can lead you into a lot of problems. Usually, you have to understand that when you take a supplement, again, a lot of times it does have like a caffeine-like product or caffeine itself. It's a stimulant. Makes you feel a little bit more alert, especially if you're tired. But the problem is it also has other ramifications in your body. It speeds up your heart rate. It also sometimes acts as a diuretic. You're urinating more. And if you're not taking enough water, now what happens is you're taking this diuretic, or that could act like a diuretic sometimes, And now you're losing more water, not only through your workout, but also through urination. And then you become overtly dehydrated. And now you're taking more supplement, and then one thing leads to another. There's acid-base disorders can occur in your body and muscle breakdown, and you don't get enough fluids to clear the muscle breakdown in your body. And this can all lead to problems. So we many times see in the emergency room.
So as a parent, a grandparent, a brother, a sister, what can we do to maybe notice? Because not all kids tell you, oh, I'm taking supplements, or I'm taking
Right.
this, bought it at GNC or wherever.
Right.
You know.
It's important. So I'll give you a quick example. In 2017, there was actually a case report done where a teenager overdosed on caffeine, for example. Ended up having a heart arrhythmia, and he actually passed away. So this also brought a lot of attention to caffeine and caffeine-related products. They did do a study. So the FDA and the European Council, they all looked at what's a normal dose of caffeine. I'm going to concentrate on caffeine here a little bit. They said usually anything less than 400 milligrams per day is considered safe. Again, it varies with person to person. And definitely if you're pregnant or if you're under the age of 15, 14, is not something that you should be taking at high doses. But anything less than 400 milligrams is considered safe per FDA and the European Council, or their equivalents. And anything greater than that can lead to toxicity. So what are the signs? Rapid heart rate, dry mouth. Sometimes you think of, you hear like a ringing in your ears. Your muscle twitches more. You're cramping up more. Your muscles cramp up more. And if it gets even to a worse state where people can even sometimes have definitely trouble sleeping, their sleep stages and their sleep cycles change significantly. So what happens is they actually end up sleeping less, never getting into deep sleep because of the stimulant. So they wake up tired again. So they take more, it's like a cycle. They take more stimulant. When really all they needed was to rest more and get into deep stage of sleep so they can recuperate from their workouts. And then hearing voices. Sometimes people can have hallucinations and visual hallucinations, auditory hallucinations. And these are all at the higher level of caffeine consumption. And you know what? You can take a supplement with caffeine in it that has a lot of caffeine, and you're not following how much you're taking. And then you get your coffee at your local coffee shop, and that has a lot of caffeine. And you take a soda that has a lot of caffeine, and before you know it, you're already at very toxic doses. So irritability, inability to sleep, acting strange. These are some of the signs that parents can look at if they see their kids using supplements. And and the other thing is also sitting down with children, talking to them about the use of supplements, and even making an appointment with a primary care doctor so they can talk with them, and they realize, hey, these are the signs of toxicity, and I need help.
Okay. Good to know. I hope our listeners really listen to that, because with all the supplements and everything out there and everybody wanting to get to natural medicine and all this, we tend to mix things up that don't quite mix together.
Right.
One thing that has come up is you hear a lot of people using melatonin.
Right.
What's your take on melatonin?
So, melatonin is actually, as a sleep physician, melatonin is something we use in practice anyways. Your body produces melatonin. So what happens is, usually melatonin is the chemical in your body or hormone in your body that gets secreted as nighttime falls, and that helps you into sleep. So it helps you fall asleep. Blue light, and you guys probably heard about blue light, and so TV will emit blue light, and that can actually inhibit melatonin secretion, and that's why people have trouble falling asleep, especially if they're watching TV or on your computer device or your telephone device right before bed. Is usually not helpful because it emits a blue light. And I know they've gotten better now, changing the color wavelengths, but if you get blue light exposure, you'll decrease the amount of melatonin and you have a harder time falling asleep. Melatonin plays multiple roles. Melatonin is important not only for helping you to go to sleep. I'm going to try to be very basic on this, on the way it affects sleep, but also melatonin plays a role in your immune response. So melatonin, having melatonin in your body is important because it actually stimulates immune cells. It helps you fight infection.
Okay, because we're hearing a lot more about that, especially with COVID coming up.
Right.
We've talked about melatonin and zinc and D3 and those kind of things. So
Right.
good to know, because people need to know that. But you were talking about sleep. How much sleep does a person need at that realm you're talking about?
See, so this is very good. So sleep, we always want to know how much sleep is normal for the average adult. We always been told 7 to 8 hours a day. Sleep varies among people. You have short sleepers, people who can sleep for 5 hours, and they feel great to get their dose of sleep that they needed. 7 to 8 is kind of the average time frame for an average adult. We found out that people who sleep less than 4 hours function as if they're intoxicated. And this is why a lot of rules have changed, especially in medical training, where they try to eliminate people staying awake for more than 24 hours, because when they did a study, this was actually done in Philadelphia, they looked at people after 24 hours of being awake, and they noted that their response time was equivalent to somebody who was mildly intoxicated with alcohol. So sleep is very important. Definitely 4 hours, less than 4 hours will cause problems, physiological problems, but also we like to see at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Again, it varies among individuals as well. There's a genetics predisposition how many hours, but predominantly 7 to 8 hours.
And sleep is sleep. It's not just going and laying in bed and tossing and turning.
Right. Sleep is sleep. And it's important. Make your bedroom a place where you can go to sleep. Quiet and colder than normal, especially at night, because this really does help you sleep better. And no blue light.
No blue lights.
No blue light.
Okay. In the emergency room, you see all kinds of patients.
Correct.
What do you want our listeners to know when they come to the emergency room? What to expect, or what you want them to bring, or whatever?
It's always hard to open up. We all have these problems. It's always hard to open up to a perfect stranger. We never met each other before, and now you're gonna divulge all this private information. And that's, I want listeners to know that when you're in the emergency room, we're there to help you. We're not there to judge anybody. We are there to help you. And the more information you give us, whether you took supplements or you didn't take supplements or what have you, we need to know all the information so we can get you the best care possible. Because that helps us not only localize your problems or concerns you have, but also helps us avoid giving you other medications that you won't need, because we know that you've been exposed to other medications. So always, we're not there to judge. We're there, and I've noticed a lot of patients always kind of at first quiet about telling us certain things, and then they'll divulge information slowly as the night goes on, as their stay goes on. But I really want them to feel comfortable, and at least I tell patients too. I said, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to judge on anything, if you've taken or not, supplements or not. I'm just here to help make you feel better.
Awesome. And it does help our doctors in the emergency room for us to be honest about everything going on. Correct. So they can take care of us. During COVID, the one thing that we noticed a lot is people that were coming through the emergency room were really sick, not just with COVID, but it seemed like people were kind of holding off coming to the emergency room until it was just almost too late. Right. And I think, how do you determine when it's time to go to the emergency room? A headache, abdominal pain, chest pain, I don't know. But how do you determine when to go? Yeah,
so and that's a hard question. It's $1 million question, and also an answer, because it's hard to determine what people have different tolerances, and we don't know. It's always good to call your doctor. If you do have a primary care doctor, call your doctor's office. Usually there's somebody on call for their office who can answer your questions, and they can help you determine if you come to this situation where you need to come to the emergency room. If you feel that something is not right and you really feel that this is something that cannot wait, your body kind of tells you, your instinct tells you. You're always, we're open 24 hours a day. We have, especially at our emergency room where I work at Oak Bend here, we have 3 locations. Always welcome to come see us.
Okay. Dr. Ladi, in all of your experience, in any subject you would like, what is the one thing you really want to hit home with patients?
I think, what I love to tell patients is, in all the training that I've did, is that, again, we are their advocates. I want patients to know, no matter what it is, whether it's from an illness to maybe domestic issues that they're having, we are there for them. We're open there. If they can't find help, we are there to help. And I want patients to understand that we are there for them because we are their advocates and always going to be their primary advocates.
Awesome. Dr. Ladi, you have been a fascinating guest today. I'd love to have you back and talk about more things. Dr. Ladi is one of the best, and we always enjoy seeing him in the emergency room. And he always has a good joke here and there. You have a joke for us today, Dr. Ladi?
I think too many for this podcast.
Okay. So I want to thank Dr. Ladi for joining us today, and a big thank you to all our listeners and tuning in. Beginning now, set an intention and a relentless focus on living your life as the greatest person you can be in all situations. Please join us next week for another podcast. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Ladi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Oak Bend Medical Center Happy Hour podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's broadcast and invite you to email us at oakbendhappyhourpodcast@obmc.org with any questions or topics that you would like for us to cover. Remember, you can find us here each Friday at 5. Until next week, be mindful and stay healthy.